It's over now. I feel like I can make it. The storm is over now. No more way. I feel like I can. The storm is over now. If I feel like I can make it. The storm is over now.
He's a liar.
It's time for the full.
Oh boy, it's another Tuesday, man. Great edition of the Full 180. I'm your Shui DJ TRWKY. Ask me why, and I'll tell you. Look, man, welcome to the Full 180. Once again, we on another Tuesday edition. The crew is on this way, man. Look, we thank you for joining us. Make sure you share. Subscribe. This is where we at every Tuesday at 7:30, unless something go on. We are not competing with Monday Night Football because we know y'all love these Dallas Cowboys. You see, I said y'all, not a fan. But I love you anyway, those that are. But in that, man, like I said, you don't want to compete. And I do, and I rather you watch, it's kind of got to make sense. You know what I'm saying? So this makes sense to do it on Tuesday. And I appreciate the crew for adjusting to do this, man. I hope you had a wonderful Tuesday. I hope your weekend was good. I hope your Sunday was good. I want to give a big shout out to my man, my man. I call him Super J. He at church. He proposed to his wife after church this past Sunday. It was cool. On the marquee, it said, "Marry me." I thought that was dope. And then the first thing he said was, "So you DJing the wedding, right?" I was like, bro, I mean, just so fast. Ooh, the red. It's the red. It's the red for me. Uh, it was just like so fast, bro. I mean, you just got married. Like, nah. And then he gave me a little background. So I'm definitely apologize. I'm definitely excited about definitely excited about him. And I love his brother to life. I always call him the president because I know he's gonna be the president of 858 one day. So man, congratulations to that. Congratulations to anyone else who had anything go on. If God is blessing you in your life in a tremendous way, then we count that as a blessing all the time. We got to think about the small things and tell people you find somebody that makes sense out of the details of you. Might want to keep them around. They might be a true friend. So speaking of true friends, I got a couple of them. They here already. We got the soon to be LLC sit on my couch. Let me play with your brain. She turns up whenever she feels like it. But when she turns down and crosses them legs and them hands, declare Huxtable is in the building. None other than our very own dictionary. And see, she got on red and black today. Lil Webby, what's happening?
Hey,
What's going on? How was the week, man? How's the week?
it's been going good.
Okay, look at you blowing and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Got that shine, that spit sign on your head. I see you, girl. The party's going. Let me find out.
What you trying to find out?
Nothing. I'm good. Don't worry about it. And then we got our own personal. You ain't never had just your own personal custom jewelry, right? So we got our own custom personal jewelry. I'm talking about this is like Flies to Paris comes back, Flies to Vegas comes back, and always ready. And she is a visionary in her own supernatural way. None other than our own personal jewelry, Miss Jules. What's going on, Super J?
What it do, y'all? How y'all doing?
Hey, so a play date tonight? That's what you kind of dress like. Is it a play date tonight?
Man, I told you I'm on the shelf.
Okay, I'm gonna let D handle it. I'm gonna let D handle it when he get here. Y'all know the point and didn't know it. He is definitely on his way. Other than that, man, look, I said I'm gonna keep it real short today. I really don't have no announcements for you. Nothing necessarily that's popping. I really want to get into the show because it's a lot to get into. So with that being said, if I can get off my light, I want to present y'all a new segment that we have now. I thought about this because you know what? Sometimes life get real, right? And you just need to just to get it off your chest. Like, what's been on your chest all week that you just want to get out? Like you look at your principal and be like, if I need my job. Or you look at one of your kids and be like, if you weren't one of my kids, boy, 6 feet +2. But so I want to introduce this today. What is it? I want y'all to, if you got anything, you got 3 minutes. Get off your chest. Anybody got anything off their chest? It don't matter what it is. Just get it off your chest. This is your turn. Vent. We are listening. Why everybody look like deer in headlights? I can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Today is low energy day for me. Like I'm
Okay.
running all day.
Vibrations.
I got you. What'd you say?
She said low vibrations.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here y'all go with this, the vibration thing. That's cool. Look, you know how we do it. If you got the 20, we'll pick up the 80 and keep it moving. So look, since nobody else do it, I'll do it. Let's get it off your chest. So, I'm always questioning about my phrase when I say feelings ain't fact. So let me try to put this in perspective in a very nice way. And I had a whole conversation with God before I got on the show. But for one, I let me preface this by saying I really don't care if you don't like my statement. That's the first thing I want to say. But let me go further and say feelings are not fact. Let me prove it to you. When I was in counseling, I was told that I would I'm always talking about feelings. But if you have no black and white evidence of what you're feeling, then you're just speaking from an emotional point of view, or you're just selfish, or you're being in a self-centered mode where you want something when you should just be like a grown adult and just say what you want. It does not mean that your feelings are not factual, does not mean that what you feel is not true. What it does mean is that I don't have to validate your feelings. Because if you tell me that I'm something and I'm not, then I have the right to disagree with you. And that doesn't mean I'm being dismissive about what you feel, how you feel. I had to learn myself to look at things from both sides before I open my mouth. Because normally I would just go right in. I was very reactive, never responsive. So a lot, if people know me now, the people who really know that I'm a lot more responsible and I'm quick to tell you it's my fault. Not saying I don't want to have the conversation, but I can see my fault in it. Or I try to see my fault in it before you do. So when you hear that statement, those of who wants to live in the world of my statements and hang on to my every word, hang on to the first thing I said. I really don't care how you feel. I don't, because if it ain't factual, then it can't be true. You can tell me how you feel, but then I need specifics to go with it. And it's nothing not harmful. I do it too. I understand feeling not fact. But if you come with facts, with your feelings, now that's a totally different type of story. But I had to get that off my chest because a lot of people always look at me and say, well, you always say feeling ain't fact. And I can't stand them silly people who like to hold on to my every word. Bro, quit holding on to my every word. Because if I held on to your every word, we wouldn't be friends. We wouldn't be a whole lot of something. It's like don't use it when it's beneficial to you in the midst of the conversation because you want to prove a point. That's the problem. Too many people want to walk around and be right instead of trying to be correct. You have an accountability and responsibility just like I do. But when you grow up and you figure out that, bro, yo shit, it does not smell like roses. It's boo-boo. Andre 3000 told y'all that. It really is. Own up to your shit. Excuse my French, grandmother. But own up to your shit. That's all you gotta do. Quit picking and choosing what you want to own up to. Own up to your shit. It's easy. That's why I'm so free now, because I can own up to mine. Now, in that moment, I know the fleshly part of us feel and we want to react. But the other side of you that has grown up should be at a place where you can, okay, you know what? Jennifer was right. I did do that. I apologize. My bad. I have no problem with it. To me, that is the real sign. Even when you actually in a relationship with somebody, feelings flee. You want to see what a real relationship is, as my grandmother would say. Let's see what you do when you like real pissed off and I'm hungry. Are you really gonna go get me something to eat? Or are you gonna sit there and say, feed yourself? Remember? Remember what you just said? Da 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 da. So please quit misinterpreting what my sentence is or when I say that. It's not a negative connotation towards you. It's just me telling you sometimes feelings are not facts. But us as the flesh, we feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we feeling because we want our way. And I can raise both hands and say, that's me. But that's all I got, man. I had to get that off my chest. It's been sitting there for a minute. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll share it. Because I want people to understand. Hey, I love everybody. I just don't trust everybody. That's just me. So, questions, concerns, comments from the peanut gallery.
No,
That smile look like it is something. But you can say it. I'm not tripping.
I've got nothing.
Oh, okay.
But give me
Jules,
one moment.
give you one. Oh, you come. Oh, okay. Jules.
No, you good, you good. I
Oh, okay.
think that you know, everybody gotta deal with themselves, and what they how they feel about stuff. So, it's good to own your stuff. Own your stuff.
Sometimes
All the
it's
time. You always own your
yeah,
stuff.
but we are sometimes we can't own up to our stuff. We want to use it like so a trigger for me, and I hate that word. A trigger used to be for me to hear everything is always your fault. I was and there's no knock to her, but in our situation, in that marriage, I heard that so much to the point where I got to the point thinking everything was my fault. And then everything was an instant gratification. You wanted to be changed instantly at the drop of a dime. But then we went to counseling and I told her that and she was like, well, that's a crazy expectation because you if he holds your feet to the fire, what you hold him to the feet, hold his feet to the fire, can you manage those same requirements that you require from him? Oh, the whole conversation changed then. So it kind of opened up my eyes, like, and that's why I kind of don't deal with expectations anymore. We all have standards. I'm a high value dude, so I have a standard. But expectations, no. And my prime example is always my mother and father. My father expected my mother to be my grandmother. I don't know how he got that,
I
but
think that's
she
common.
ain't. True. I mean, you see somebody mama and think that's what it is. No, that's not my no, 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 wrong person. Wrong person.
Right.
But see, the thing is you want those certain things that my grandmother was doing, but you wasn't acting like my grandfather.
Ugh.
Truth hurts, but it's true. Well, let's keep moving. D is on his way, man. So look, if you see
He's
this
here.
right,
He's here.
oh, is he okay? I didn't see him. So if you
What
see this, the
up?
QR, what up, big bro? I thought about you, big bro. I thought about you.
Oh boy, I'm about to
Oh
get mine. Hold
boy,
on.
I thought about you,
Let
boy.
me get mine.
If you see this, if you see the QR code, scan the QR code. You can subscribe, watch, and comment on the show. We want you to comment on the show. I will definitely keep an eye on the chat because it's gonna be a ooh sticky one today. So that's why I said I wanted to get in and get out. But that's a new segment. Look, it ain't just for us. If you got something you want to get off your chest, please email us at the full 180 convo@gmail.com. I would be more than happy to read it on air. We can get it off your chest for you. We want you to be a part of the show. Don't ever think that you are us and we are you. And we thank you for just spending the hour that you have with us. So let's get into the show topic, man. It is this documentary that out. And I haven't just totally seen I seen it, but I ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? I had to see it for the show. But what I'm saying, like, I ain't really just dug into it. Like I'm talking about, feet crossed, sitting on the couch, popcorn, chilling to really look at it. But Kurt Franklin has a documentary out about something about him finding his father here recently in 2023. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but there are some highlights that I do want to share with you. Some of the highlights is that, I've even heard this on Kev on stage. Appreciate you, Miss Quita, who said that he had difficulty loving his wife. He used to treat his wife like an employee because she said it was hard to love somebody that's always on the road, or I'll use me, somebody that's always out in the public DJing and doing this and doing that. So when he used to come home, he used to be home, but he wasn't home, right? Kirk also said that he had been looking for love looking for a father's love for so long, right? And this affected his inability to be the husband that he needed to be to his wife, um, as well as some other things that was going on. And his mother, um, I don't know. It's just like, and I don't want to talk about that because, and that's why I say I'm taking it to a whole nother direction because I've heard people talk about it all day. I watched the thing on Kev on stage today. What's up, Kev? Um, and it was good, and they dug into it. But I wanted to take it to a whole nother route because when I think about this, I think about mothers, husbands, fathers, and when you're looking at that, it looks like Kirk's mother was a horrible mother. Now I don't know if she was ever a wife, but from the dialect, he was a horrible mother, right? And it got me to thinking where I came up with the topic of great mother, horrible wife, great father, horrible husband. So, so that's the backdrop of it. So let me be very vulnerable and transparent. When I talk about this, it kind of hits home. This is why. I was a great daddy to those 4 kids, especially the little one that's about to graduate. I was a great daddy. You could not beat me being a daddy. But when I can tell you, I can confess and be 10 toes down and tell you I sucked at being a husband. Now, and the crazy thing about that is this is a dude who grew up with 2 parents in the house. This is a dude that grew up with his grandparents. You've seen 2 different relationships, right? And then you're supposed to filter and take what you need out of one. But I know I am my daddy's child. I was so my daddy's child where my mother had to, I was dating somebody in high school. Well, we dated for a long time. But I said something to her like my father would say. And my mama came out the room, but when I tell you, she checked me. And it was just like crazy, right? And I grew up hearing, you're not gonna be like your sorry ass dad. You're not gonna do this. You're not gonna do that. You're not gonna do that. Now, further, we have went further long, and we've had these conversations, and she's admitted there's certain things that she should have never said to me, or certain things she should have interjected when I was growing up. But when I tell you I was a horrible husband, like I stayed in the center. It wasn't now where I'm willing to listen and have a conversation. It was like, nah, this is what it is, and this is what it ain't. And I know that I want to say when you see the Kirk documentary, some of that stuff affected him with trying to be a husband with his wife. He's admitted it openly. They've had the conversation. So this is why I came up with it. Because some of us think we are great. We have, we got the greatest man in the world, but your husband is really raggedy. But he's a great dad. And for some reason, that's why women stay. And then some of us have freaky wives, but they're great at being a mother, but they suck at being a wife, or vice versa. So the first thing I'm going to ask, because I always like to be transparent, so I go first. I tell y'all all the time, I walk through the fire before y'all will. But in your transparency, without being in detail like me, can any one of y'all say that either you were, well, let me back up. This can be indicative to being a sister, brother, friend, whatever, however you want to preface it, right? It ain't just this, but because of the documentary, this is how I framed it. Now, my question, can any one of you ever say that at one time or in any time you were either a horrible wife and a great mother, or you were a great father, or you are a great father, but you suck at being a husband sometimes? Anyone? And only you know your truth. I can't say that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go. Oh, am I on? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing, I was talking.
Oh, I think it's a matter of capacity.
Okay.
And sometimes we have capacity to do one thing better in a particular season than the other.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna say at 100% when I was married that I was great at doing both at the same time, because that doesn't always happen. And I'm saying that without going into too much detail. Like I really just think it boils down to what we have the capacity to do in that particular moment or season.
Can
So-
you expound on when you say capacity? I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I just want you to take that a little further.
So I'll speak in my, well, okay, we're talking about when we being married. Especially,
I mean, it could be a friendship. It could
Mhm.
be you and your a mother daddy relationship. Anyway, however you want to frame it, to just
okay, so what I'm saying is you have like, okay, so we all have cups. We have multiple cups. It is what it is. And I know we joked about cups a couple of weeks ago, but I'm trying to get what I'm trying to say without being long-winded. We have in other words, we have strengths and weaknesses in different areas in our life, correct? And in
True.
some moments, depending on what we're going through up here, is going to affect the outcome of outputs of different things, whether that's being a wife, whether that's being a mama, whether that's being a friend, whether it's being a girlfriend or whatever. So I'll speak for not necessarily when I was married, but when I was going through my divorce. I did not possess the capacity to be a good friend to anybody at that moment. And I was very honest with myself and my friends at that time. And it caused me to lose friends. One friend, we did not talk for 8 years. Now, did I do my best at conveying to my friend that I did not exhibit the capacity to be her friend in that moment? No, which ultimately left us not talking for 8 years. But I knew that in that season in my life, I had nothing to give. And the only reason why I was giving to my child in that moment is because I had to. And judging probably from her perspective, she probably would tell you I wasn't good at that either during that time. Because I didn't have it. I was like zombie mode during that whole process. And even sometime afterwards. Because what was going on up here, I felt like I had nothing else. So, I mean, I feel like that currently in some areas, but that's neither here nor there.
I think this is a topic that we kind of have to identify a few things as well, because it's kind of important to kind of first acknowledge that the term horrible and great kind of are subjective. And can vary depending on, everybody's different perspective of what horrible is. What we might think is horrible is just, neglecting time or, or is it abuse or is it, disrespect? So it's really defining what that is, because I think in everybody's seasons in the relationship, you feel at some point you didn't give your best, which can sometimes be perceived to you or to them as, you ain't been the best. I mean, you kind of been a terrible wife in a moment. Like if I'm in a season of frustration and I'm complaining all the time and I'm angry all the time and these things, is that, a horrible wife? Or are you just in a season of frustration? Like you don't know how to get out of that. And sometimes you are seeking some kind of support or help, but you're not getting it in a sense. So how you identify horrible, like we kind of need to clarify that. But like when I think of a horrible wife versus a good parent, it's based on mostly character, you know what I mean, in a sense, or sometimes it could be just the season, like Webby was saying, like you just got to address, what you consider, even what's a good parent, you know what I mean? And when it comes to like, for me, for like good parenting qualities, I think of like somebody that's loving, that's patient, that's supportive, that's always showing up for their kids. And in season when you both are working and things like that, you can also be a terrible parent in that session. You know what I mean? So it's perspective, how are you looking at it and what's really a terrible parent? So I think that kind of needs to be a little bit defined before you feel like you can say you was a terrible parent or a terrible wife. Like, I don't feel like I was ever a terrible wife. I
At
made
no time.
at no time, because there was no time that I was just trying to intentionally go against my husband, you know what I mean? Or intentionally being disrespectful. Now, have I been disrespectful? Yes, of course. That's your growing seasons. Those are the times when you're learning how to navigate and work together and build together. And sometimes you say something that, ain't quite in line, and it's like, my bag. I wasn't trying to, tag you intentionally. I was just frustrated, but I don't feel like I was in a season where I'm just like, man, fuck you, I mean, to be clear.
That's why I said capacity, because where we're low here in this area, we may be excelling in this other area due to whatever we got going on up here. So there were moments in my marriage where I probably just wasn't the greatest wife. And it could have been whatever my capacity was in that given moment, but I'm excelling it. I'm showing up for my child. I'm going to everything she got going on. I'm being a caretaker, nurturer. I'm doing this, but then my husband, ex-husband was feeling where he was feeling neglected in certain areas. So that's why, I do agree with you saying that definitely terrible, horrible, great, good, all of those words are definitely subjective, which is why I started off by saying it's a matter of what we have capacity in that moment and during that particular season. I do believe that I don't think it's as often that we have capacity of being a better parent and then versus being a spouse in that moment or whatever situation may have. I don't think that they always align, because we're never balanced. Well, I'm not going to say never. How often are we just balanced? Because when we got something going good here, something else is getting a deficit in this other area.
So like, what do y'all define as like, what's a horrible wife?
I think that's subjective, because I think that's in the eyes of the beholder who's receiving that. Because I can't say, and if we were going to go swing back to, Kirk Franklin's mom, I can't say that she was a horrible mother. I don't know. Now, what she did, not telling her son who his biological father is, that is definitely a problem. But I can't sit here and say that she was a horrible mother. I can't say that.
And the question is, did she even realize that he was the father? Maybe she didn't even, even consider him being the father.
I don't know. I haven't watched it.
Well, I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I do want you to watch it for those who haven't watched it. But in this, it was irate of him being, he was very irate about she lied to me again, because she told him someone was his father. And then as it went on, they found out this gentleman was his father. And when you actually see the picture, it's like, wow, yeah, that's your daddy for real. So, but in that moment, he asked her, I need you to give me this. I need you just to say that you accept this. And for some reason, she could not say she accepted it. And this is something, because of all this, if you listen to Kirk's music, now that I've heard him say that, if you listen to Kirk's music, he has been searching to have love in his life for a long time. He's been married to a woman that he treated like an employee, and that they still together. Hey, and they rocked it. They rock it and roll. They have a therapist, all that. But he was not, because of the situation with his parent, he was tragic. He was one of him, I guess his oldest kid, Carry On. Them two they never talked, never got along. But there's a moment in the actual movie, because I was listening to Kevin on stage, where he admitted that he was wrong, and because of certain things that went on in his past, he was not able to love him profusely or the correct way, as he was stating. But let me ask y'all two a question, and I need D to talk. Well, I want to play something, then I want D to talk because it relates to the whole documentary. So with what y'all just said, because since we playing on the word horrible, from what y'all just said, do any one of y'all consider y'all ex-husbands a good husband or a bad husband? Is that still is that still not subjective after you answer this question?
It's still subjective. Like for me, a
How's
terrible,
it subjective?
because to me, my definition of a terrible husband is somebody that is continuously condescending. They are physically abusive, emotionally abusive, and they don't care. Like it's like that dictatorship in the house, just like he's treating his wife like a servant or a worker for him, and not treating her as his helpmate or his equivalent. There's a level of like disrespect that is constant in the relationship that makes it like a horrible husband. Like, is he beating me, putting his hands on me? Is he, abandoning me all the time? And it's just, there's like, it got to kind of be extreme for me. Like, I think that you have to allow a little bit of grace for anybody that you are building with, to have some growing pains, but to be just outright disrespectful and hurting you, and hurting your children and things like that, and not leading properly. There's just a bunch of, mismanaging in your environment and your funds and all kind of stuff that is just altogether a mess. So that's a terrible husband, that you're not a human. Like we were talking about, last week about, whether or not you treat your wife as a slave, kind of like that kind of thing. So that's what I view a horrible husband is, where, other people can view it differently, more lighter or heavier.
So here's the definition of good. So Webster has resurrected. And you can use,
she woke up. Okay.
She here. So good, the terminology good can be an adjective, noun, or a verb. The adjective part of it says to be desired of or approved of, having the qualities required of a particular role. So with that, what you saying, like, your husband beating on you, but he paying the bills and he got a roof over your head. Some people still say that's a good husband, according to them, because what he's doing, he is still being desired to some degree, and he's having the qualities required for a particular role. And if that person views or values having a roof over their head and the bills paid, and she got to deal with being hit on every now and again, that's good for them. And then the other one says, where if you use it as a noun, it says that which is morally right, righteous, or morally right or righteousness. That's its own, again, interpretation. And then lastly, it says well, just the word well. So that's why the word good is subjective, because it's in the eye of the who's beholding the terminology good. Because what you value good and what I value good is going to be two different things.
So as I asked y'all before, with y'all ex-husbands, were they good husbands?
Well, I'm not going to ever say that my ex-husband was a bad husband.
I mean, but compare what you just said to your own turn out, because you're the only one in it.
He wasn't a bad husband. He just wasn't the right husband for me. Maybe
okay.
Somebody else.
Thank you, Michelle Obama, for that answer. Okay.
Why I got to be Michelle Obama?
So okay, I would just so I'm gonna tell you why I say that, because a whole lot of us sit around and give what I call these political ass answers, and if your ass was terrible or not. It don't matter if he wasn't putting his hands on you or not. If you was at the house with your wife and you didn't give two shits whether you want to deal with her or not. That. Just like you a woman, now damn well, You know if you was terrible. You knew if you didn't provide what it is that you needed, what he needed. You knew you dismissed some of the stuff he said. You knew you made it okay for him to be in this part of your life, but he couldn't be this part of your life. You know that. The truthful part of you know that. But we sit around and give these political answers, and this is why we said got people out here hurting people, because you're never truthful about your mess. But then that's why I said what I said earlier about the whole when when Jules said you have to be accountable for your own stuff. This is what I'm talking about. Too many people walking around not being accountable and responsible, but you give all these unrealistic or you give these political ass answers. It's not a political answer. In your real self, you know if you was trash. You know the moments you were trashing, and you knew what you was doing. Period. D, I'm gonna play this and then I'm gonna let you answer. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna take that another layer because at the flip side, and this is the residual impact of growing up with a single mom, you make it about you because your mama made it about you. And the reality is you get home, you're supposed to be the person that's there to where she falls in your arms,
right?
But you're looking.
You're talking about as a young man.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But the husband's not showing up. The son is.
Yeah, the son is.
The son is showing up in the household with the wife, and the wife is getting the son thinking she's getting the husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is there hasn't been any therapeutic treatment or anything, whatever. There hasn't been a lot of healing with the son.
Right.
That's impacting the marriage because now we're expecting the wives' arms to be open like mama's was.
Right.
And when it's not, we throw temper tantrum. Right. And we having a situation.
It's the broken boy in
Yeah. It's dealing with our wives got to deal with the boy on the inside of us.
Right.
And what I've seen is we got to deal with the little girl that's on the inside of us.
That's right.
That's never been healed.
That's never
and it's not saying that we ain't with their fathers, but it's not saying that they're our mamas. Right. At some level, it's the healing thing. It's being transparent. It's being truthful about who is showing up.
Yeah.
Who hasn't been healed?
Yeah. Who hasn't been healed?
Who hasn't walked through that?
Wow.
And your wife ain't your therapist, nor are you hers.
Man.
So if you haven't seen it, it's Husbandhood, our very own D the Poets podcast. Make sure you join that. But I thought about you in this moment, bro, because what you said, from what I've heard about the doc, sounds just like her. He was married. Tammy got the son. She never got the husband because Kirk was always in search of this love because he felt like nobody else wanted him. I got pregnant. This lady got pregnant. She gave me away. This man said he was my daddy. He wasn't my daddy. So now it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Nobody don't want me. And then you develop all these insecurities, and then you finally get married to this woman, and now you have this insecurity that never went away. And now she was supposed to get a husband, and now she's dealing with a little boy. And I think that's what was going on in that situation with Kirk as he put that out there in the document. As Kev said it on Kev on stage said it while he was giving his commentary about it. So I want you to go further with that statement. I don't know if you've seen the show, but I want you to go further with what y'all was talking about. Because I think that's very important in this situation.
Yeah. Wow. So man, it's layered, to say the least. But one of the things I would say for sure is it's very difficult when you enter a marriage and you begin to see the unhealed spaces in your spouse, but you also begin to see them. She helps you see them in yourself. One of the things I also said in that podcast was it pissed me off. And one of the times that we were having an exchange because she saw something in me that I didn't want her to see. And the reality is, when you have someone that's that close to you, having someone that lives with you and they're doing life with you at this juncture of life, that person eventually becomes your mirror. See, when two becomes one, that person can see things in you that you probably can't even see in yourself. and that person and you and vice versa. But can I trust that person to be able to speak into my life and I speak into their life in a way that's accepted? So all in all, what I'm saying, at least why that was important during that time, on the podcast that we do is specifically the men. There are so many the son that hasn't been addressed, especially in Black men who, for me, both sets of my biological, allegedly, both sets of my biological grandparents live on the same street, but I don't know who my biological dad is. I don't have a relationship with him, and that's been that way my entire life. You know, to the rejection that can feel like, yo, like that can come from a dad. You know what I mean? It's something about a father's impact on your life that could really be instrumental. But there's also this part of me that has really grown in my faith to understand that the same patience that I gotta have for others is the same patience I gotta have for myself. I gotta trust what God is doing through me. So when it comes down to being a horrible husband or horrible wife, um, I would say, I would want to say that I'm a growing husband and I'm a growing father. I didn't see fatherhood in my house. I saw it on the weekends with a man who jumped in and started raising me. I saw it with my grandfather, you know, when he would take me fishing with him and teach me some stuff. I didn't see a husband in my mama's house. Transparently, no shade to my mom, but I heard the residual impact of a man being in the house late at night and what that sounded like. You know what I'm saying?
Only you.
And that, but no, I'm telling you the truth. That shit is
I know. I
detrimental,
know.
dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? That shit hurt for a son to hear his mama getting knocked off. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just keeping it a buck, like, because we doing this. That hurt. You know what I'm saying? So much so to where when that sound, when you're on the other end of it as an adult doing that type of work, um, and those sounds start to come back, it triggers kind of something that happened when you were a kid. You know what I mean? So this stuff gets real deep. Like, you know what I'm saying? When if you really start to get real transparent with it. Um, and from a healing perspective, as a husband, man, it's important that you the um take the steps to be that most healthiest husband you can be for not only for your wife, but for your family. Because especially when you've experienced things in your life that are pretty much adverse. Because we also talk about adverse childhood experiences. And I guarantee you, if we all took an ACEs test, that our ACEs, a lot of us would average at least 4 on that test. And even that, right, alone, right, studies show that you're like, in certain cases, like for certain areas, certain things, you can be 6,000% prone to do something as a result of having a 4. And then if you have a 6, it increases that much more. But the average person don't really know that piece. Like if you hadn't studied psychology, social work, or even just for familiar with working with children at some capacity, you don't really understand the importance of adverse childhood experiences and the studies that's coming out more and more about how that's impacting people's lives and how that impacts relationships. Not to say that you can't have a successful one, not to say you can't have a really great relationship or just a really great life. It's just saying, hey, look, there's some things you got to work through to get there. So I digress, but overall, I think it's a journey, man, and we all got our stuff. You know what I'm saying? We all got our stuff that we got to work through, and it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? It's not the pretty stuff you see when you were holding hands or when you push up if you follow the hashtag relationship goals. It's not. It's not that. It's not
Mm-mm.
that pretty. It's not that pretty
Mm-mm.
stuff. But it's a blessing to have someone that is willing to do life with you to the point where we can also, as much as we can knock up headboards, have a great time, and go on trips, we can also walk through healing together.
That's dope. I definitely deal with that. And I appreciate you being transparent about that. Because see, when you
Mhm.
say you didn't have one there, I can honestly say I had one there, but because of certain things in his childhood, like your body was present, but you wasn't always present.
Can I
But I
speak to
had
that
my
real quick though?
go ahead.
It's like, so there's this professional term called presenteeism. Have you ever heard of that?
No, sir.
So
I have.
presenteeism, yeah, presenteeism is you're there in body, but you're not there. It's like you're there, but you're not there. I don't know if y'all ever had a coworker that y'all know they there, but they not. They not here. You know what I mean? That's presenteeism, right? Presenteeism also show up in our relationships at some point where you can just tell that person's here in spirit and mind. I mean, they're here in body, but they're not here, right? Their heart and their mind is somewhere else, which is not allowing them to be fully present with you um, in that moment. So, or just in that time. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I just thought about that
No,
when
you
you said
good.
that.
No, I mean I can relate to the grandfather thing. My grandfather was like the one that I get my first, I got my first checking account with. He used to take me to the barbershop. It's a lot of things my grandfather did. So I used to see, like that's why I said two different relationships. In this relationship, we kissed and hugged. In this relationship, it was more of like, I'm the man. This is what you're gonna do, and it's cool. I mean, I can follow either one. Um, I was following both, and my mother will tell you I was my dad's biggest lawyer because I would always try to go. But I can even say, and she watching now, she may be mad. But I'm gonna say it. Growing up now and being this age and looking back, I could say there was a time my mother was a horrible wife, or she was not a good soul wife, or she was not a great wife. Whatever adjective you want to use, she just was not that. And I think now in this frame, in this time in her life, she could see things a whole lot more clear where she could have did X, Y, Z better. Goes to what the lady said. You could have did that better. You could have did this better. You could have not did this. You could have not did that. Hindsight is 2020. But she had to look herself, as you say, in the mirror and be real with herself and just immediately say it. They always say, so psychiatrists always say, it's not true until you say it out loud. So I believe now when you say it out loud, or no, it's name that's not true saying out loud. It doesn't start. You don't start the healing process until you say it out loud. I'll look it up to make sure I'm saying it correctly, but I was told that. So when you start admitting stuff out loud, it's kind of like I can let it go. Like so, what up, Black Ice? He said I can say that I can be a better husband than I am. I feel that I am an awesome provider with what I've had, but sometimes I can confuse the two.
Yeah.
A horrible wife, in my opinion, consists of a woman that consistently belittle or downplays the husband. Nothing is ever right in their eyes. Your body is here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. I hear your boy quoting the OJs. Um, so yeah, I mean, so whatever ads you want to use, I can even go further. I don't think I've always been a great cousin, and I'm the oldest cousin. I don't think I've always been a great brother to my sister. It's a 10-year age gap. It doesn't mean anything. We kind of both are the same, but I haven't always been what I needed to be. I haven't always been the best boyfriend at all. Probably still not. There's some things that I could do wrong, and there's some things I use your word to anticipate to make sure I put that out there to show my vulnerability to say, look, I know I can do better. I know there's certain things I can do better in, and I'm not doing it. So uh, what I'm saying? I think that's important that first we can admit it. You can see those shortcomings in yourself. And I think when you both people are admitting shortcomings in themselves, now we got somewhere to work.
Well, I think more than that too, though, in addition to what you're saying, which thank you for your transparency. When people choose to take ownership, like where there's no ownership, there's no growth. None of us can grow like if we're not willing to take ownership. And honestly, that awkward pause is like when you first ask the question originally, all of us are just sitting here like, because
Hmm.
sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard to take ownership sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a prideful thing, right? Sometimes we can connect with our ego and pride, but when you self-reflect, um, the old folks would say, when you point the finger, there are three pointing back at you. So you gotta always realize, like, you also gotta take into consideration, what did I do? Like, was I a good was I good for them as well, right? Um, in any relationship, right? So there are things that, how would you say this from a mom perspective? I wouldn't say my mom was a horrible girlfriend because my mom has never been a wife. Um, but I can tell you there are things about my mom that if I was in a man's situation, my mom dearly, it wouldn't just be something that would attract me to it. You know what I mean? Just because of some of the things I saw all the time. Has she gotten better yet? Absolutely. Like, she's a wonderful woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for every person, there is someone that has to be patient enough to stay with that person. And if you left, that doesn't, I'm not throwing any shade if you chose to leave or if y'all chose to like separate. No. I'm just saying that everybody needs someone who can handle and be patient with them. Because none of us are perfect. All of us have sinned and fallen short. And can we, like, you know, is that something that you can tolerate? Is that something that you can work through? Can you love that person through that? Right?
Mm.
Just, yeah.
So I mentioned her, and now
Can I
she's
throw a
talking.
little slinger in there? Can I
Oh
throw a
yeah, go
little
ahead.
slinger?
I was gonna just read a comment.
Like,
Go ahead.
okay, so like I can see where, in some situations, people are intentionally just buttholes
So,
in their
mhm,
relationships because they ready for it to be over. They trying to get out of it and they don't want to take ownership of ending it. So they tend to be harsh or disrespectful intentionally. So, people will reject them and they don't have to do the hard work, of breaking up with somebody in the family or all of that. So, an instance in like the case of, somebody being just a terrible spouse or companion or whatever it may be, for just because they are no longer they no longer respect the man or they no longer love their wives and they're just out here just cheating, and doing whatever they want to do or being demeaning or disrespectful intentionally because they have lost that desire to be with that person.
mhm.
And for me, I think it's just not owning your stuff and just getting out of it, when you know that you're not going to be good to somebody, put yourself on the shelf, man. Get out the situation, let it go, and don't destroy nobody else in the process.
That sounds real easy.
I
That
love,
sounds
I
easy.
love,
That's
I love
easier
that
said than
shelf.
It's not
done.
easy. That's why
That's
people. That's
easy.
why people are doing it to other people because it's
Yeah,
not easy to walk away from somebody and say, "Hey, I don't want to be with you no more," or
it's
whatever,
not.
and they use that as scapegoat of, "Oh, I'm just gonna be out here cheating until she, put me out," or "I'm just gonna be out here. I'm just gonna be disrespectful to him until he move around." That's what they consider to be the easiest part, but honestly, you destroying that person.
You know what? I'm with you. And I think some things too, though, Jules, Webby, um, DJ Tricky, we gotta consider we really gotta consider the things we overlooked as well. Let me take ownership for myself. In relationships that failed, the things that annoyed me to the point of where I had to call it quits were also things that I recognized that at some point I overlooked. And the things that we at some point, like where, how would you say this? Like, I saw a sign there, right? How we call these red flags or whatnot, right? I saw a sign that could be bad eventually, but I gave the person the benefit of the doubt, right? Well, not really gonna address this like that. I'm just gonna let it be. You know what I'm saying? And then there might be a couple other things, but what ended up happening was that thing started to mature. And when that thing started to mature over the duration of our relationship, it ultimately resulted into me saying, I gotta go. But I also wonder too, if I had addressed it when I immediately saw it, I wonder how that would have happened. You know what I'm saying? Or how that would have turned out. right?
What they would accept it or
What
withdrawn.
they had a like, what they had a like, and I probably would have known a little bit about that person, because some of the best relationships are the ones that now obviously you don't want the crazy stuff, right? Super crazy stuff, which is still subjective. But I don't condone any abuse or anything like that. So I just want to be clear about that. But I'm curious if that person was willing to take ownership and move on, like, or would they just have, we had to just, I don't know, got bad, and then we wouldn't have wasted as much time. So these are things that you think about as you self-reflect over relationships, but I haven't found any relationship to be easy. And some of the best relationships I have, whether friends, now marriage, even some of the best relationships I've had, although it ended, were ones that we were able to rub up against each other in some capacity and get through it, and figure out a way to move past it. But if that thing continues, if that person, again, where there's no ownership, there's no growth. If that person refuses to take ownership and chooses to do the same thing, even though they know that's how that rubs you the wrong way, then yeah. And Jules, lastly, there are people that self-sabotage relationships because
Wow.
they don't know how to tell you, I don't want to be with you. They would rather for you to just tell them, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, what I call, they'll either keep the ball in bounds or they'll throw it out of bounds to make you force you to do. Because now I will say some people do things. Well, let me put it this way. I definitely agree with D said, but nevertheless, on the other side of that, there are some times where people do things and they make you make hard decisions because you have to make the decision. Like, I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to work through this with you. I'll use me. When I got divorced, I got my divorce papers in the email. I had just woke up that morning, kissed her, went to work. Got my divorce papers in the email when I got to work. But before then, I never had any inkling of divorcing her. And anybody can tell you, boy, we used to go Eddie. But I had no desire to leave that because my thing is it was always easy to leave. I've never grew up when I growing up, never seen anybody leave. So I didn't know what that was or even how to do that. Fast forward to now, it was something that I used to never believe that I do believe now. When people show you who they are, believe them. So when you start showing me who you are, understand I done got the freeway and I'm on the service road. And I'm just cruising. Cause see, these conversations are not gonna keep happening. Everything got an expiration date. Even milk, even us. So at that point, it's gonna be a time where it's like enough is enough. And now I have the spirit to walk away. Or as what my mother would say, fade to black. I have that spirit and to act like you don't exist. I had a conversation with Webby. Somebody I dated, seen them at a party. Whole conversation. The conversation was, oh, well, you just quit talking to me. I said, no. When we had the conversation, you said you wasn't ready. And I said, okay, cool. And I walked out. Cause see, I'm in a whole nother place and you're not there. So we're good. Do you? I'm fine. But you thought we were still going, nah, we're not. Cause I said to you what I wanted to do. And we had the conversation and you said where you were. So I accepted where you were and I dismissed myself. But now all of a sudden, when I still want, well, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I mean, it's not me being mean, I mean, displacing, but it's like I moved on and now I'm in a place where, I don't have to worry about feeling wanted. I want it. I don't have to worry about nobody. I have to worry about walking away. They're too busy trying to walk towards me, no matter what we're doing. Let me read this comment. I want to go further. So I talked her up. What up, BG? She said, you can be present but not engaged. I was a horrible wife in that I wasn't consistent in attempting to meet my husband's needs. Honest self-reflection is very difficult, but it has definitely forced me to grow and mature. Now, that comment is from my own mother. So, and I see it in her all the time. Ever since my pops passed away, I see a difference in her every day. Even my own grandmother, that was together for 57 years. And see, I can only talk about them because these are my examples. Even when he passed away, she said she could have did better. So it's always a point where we were not the best. Now, let's get to the caveat. This is the best part that I like about what you're going to see in the documentary and what we're talking about. Because to me, this is the most like, if it don't give you chills, don't give you chills. So my question to y'all, and I want everybody to answer, please. It is amazing to me to see the biggest, what they say, the biggest gospel artist in the world, to do some of the things that he's done, how he's taken some what we call hip hop beats and put them into music and actually love kids and feed kids. And sometimes some of this stuff is spiritual and motivating to us, right? But is it crazy to me how this man who was thrown away, didn't know what love was, had an issue with his wife, in the midst of all this, tell me, how does all that happen and you still see God in the midst? How are you still able to see this supernatural human being that sits in the hills where it comes from all our help? Cliche verse, but still, in all your hurt, you still are able to find God. I don't know about y'all, but for when I think about what was said, and then I make that statement, it got to give you a chill. It got to give you, and I know I'm not speaking correct English, but it has to give you that push, like, man, it's possible. The impossible is possible. What you think ain't there is there. Faith and fear cannot dwell. This man had faith in the midst of all this rigorous lifestyle, hurt. But when we see him, he looks happy. He looks like he's encouraging the world. He wants to love on the world, but he's at home begging for love. And in the midst of all this, he still is able to see God. How is that?
Because he's not operating in his own strength. What he's operating from is God. God is love. The Bible teaches us that God is love. It was before I hopped on the podcast today, I heard Nick Cannon referencing the Fred Hammond song. And it choked me up a little bit because I needed to hear that. And it was that Fred Hammond, No Weapon, that he was singing. And that part where it gets to God will do what he said he will do. He will stand by his word. He will come through. I needed to hear that, right? And man, so I'll say this, man, like, you know, we fail often, but God never fails. We can't make statements like that cliche. Our generation is easy to make some cliche because they've heard it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency of hearing that and allowing that to seep in is a game changer. So to answer that question just directly, God told us he will never leave us or forsake us. That didn't mean that we weren't going to go through what we were going to have to go through. And he said he would be present. And a lot of times, I think I quoted this in another podcast we had together about a few weeks ago. We was talking about love, but First John chapter 4, I think it's around verse between 7 and 9. It talks about love and it talks about the Holy Spirit and it talks about the fact that there are depths of love in us that we don't even know that we have until it's revealed. And sometimes that's just what we got to lean into. So that would be my answer to that.
Ladies.
I'm gonna agree with Dee, that he kind of leaned on that hope and faith from God. And love never fails. You know, God's love never fails, and he is going to do what he says he's going to do. I grew up in a very crazy kind of way, as I would like to say. My childhood was whack. But that adversity, you know, builds you and makes you stronger and more resilient to, you know, in the process. It makes you you know, have that faith in God that, you know, you brought me through this stuff. When you realize that he was carrying you through these phases and opening these doors for you and making it happen around you and making you successful. And it's all him. It ain't really you. Because in the way that he does it is like, you can't even claim it, you know, it's all him. And so that faith is, you know, when you're dwelling in it, it's unwavering. You know, you have the confidence and the strength and the ability to endure. And you don't always look at it as, you know, as hardship in a way. Sometimes you know that it hurt you, but you don't dwell in it, you know. I do want to say that this documentary did kind of rub me a little to the left
Okay.
sense, because I felt like although God brought him through all this stuff and he had all this faith, he kind of did what his father did, you know, to him, or he felt like his father did to him. And instead of staying in that, God is the father, you know, he's giving you this word to show you how to be a father. And you've allowed this space between you and your child that you are grieving, and you're putting that same grief on your kid, you know? And so I kind of was like, like you, man, he brought you through all this stuff without a father. He was your father. And at some point, you gotta stop seeking for this physical man and understand you already got the spiritual father that you need. And he's placed everybody in your life to give you everything that you needed. But you seeking this fleshly desire for a man that, you know, all this time that I don't know. I didn't agree with, I just felt like it was just like kind of whack that you got a spiritual father who has blessed you and given you all these things, and yet you seeking something physical to give you value.
Oh man.
Oh, I guess it's me. So I am going to definitely have a difference of opinion. Yes, it is great when God brings us through. He sustains, we're resilient, we have faith, we have hope, and all these adjectives and nouns in the Bible. So could we say that because of his profession, that's why he was able to continue? His job, huh?
Are you asking?
Posing a theory.
Okay, for sure. Yeah.
Is it not possible? And I'm not saying that God didn't do things. That's not what I'm saying. So just hear me out. Is it not possible that due to his profession, he was able to sustain and keep pushing? Just a thought.
Yeah, good thought.
It's very possible because of his profession. His profession is to sing gospel. His profession is to reach lives and to entertain and do all these things. So is it not possible that that's why he was able to stay on for so long and then go home and be something different? Just a thought before anybody go on.
Go for it. Sorry.
And then, no, you're good. And then two, I have some objections with, and I haven't watched it in its entirety. I've only watched bits and pieces. However, my statement is not indicative to him. So I'm not saying that our childhood does not manifest in our adult life, because it does. Unhealed childhood trauma shows up in our adult life. It shows up in our marriages. It shows up as we're parenting. It shows up at work. It shows up, and it's going to continue to show up. Because there are things that have happened to us in our childhood that we've blocked out, and it's resurrected for some reason or another, because the body keeps scoring. There's a book out there, I can't think of the author, but it does happen. So my question would be to him or anyone else going through similar situations, or not even similar situations, at what point, when we reach adulthood, that we acknowledge that we did have childhood trauma, but we are not going to allow our childhood traumas to dictate every facet in our lives. So at what point, adults, and I'm speaking to me too, because there are things that happen, and I'm saying it in general, this is not indicative to him. At what point do we say, adult, self say, this bothered me, it hurt me. Now I'm a wife, or I'm a parent, and I'm this and I'm that. I didn't like how this made me feel. So what I'm going to do to change the trajectory in my life going forward. So at what point do we do, at what point is he going to stop, he, them, they, whoever, going to stop holding this man accountable for everything that has tragically happened in his life up until this point? And I'm not saying his mama was right in what she did, because that's not okay. That's not okay. And if he's 3 years old, this man just not finding out who his biological father is. That's the problem. So at some point in your marriage, you realize that you had been treating your wife like an employee. So your daddy did that? Your daddy didn't do that. So at what point, when you had this big public blow up on social media between you and your son, your daddy did that? So that's what we do? And I'm not excusing any of his hurt. Yeah. I don't know what that feels like. I know who my dad is. I'm very aware of who he is, and I've gotten to learn him as me being an adult now, not seeing my daddy, but his name, like the man. So
that's a hell of a point.
I think
that's a hell of a point. I think, is it okay to say something to that, Webby? Are you good with that? Okay, so I think you are on point with that. Because at some level you made a choice. When you go before God and you have to account for how you treated your wife, I don't think God gonna be hearing, oh, I did that because my daddy wasn't there for me all my life and blah 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 blah. Like, obedience is obedience. How are you supposed to treat the people? How you're called to steward your wife, and how you called to steward your people and your children is just what that is.
Period.
No matter what you went through, which means that at some level we have to begin to transition from victim to victor. The issue is that we can't live from victory when we're living from a victimized space. And that victimizing, right, challenges you. Like when you're victimized, or you perceive everything from a victimized perspective, it's always somebody else's fault.
Right. And that's all that I was getting. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Darren.
No, you're good. You're good. It's always somebody else's fault. And what we got to do, I think it's a little both thing, right? Acknowledge what possible. See, this is still very fresh for him. So we got to be very careful there as well. So we got to be careful how and what position we take. But God bless this brother. I love Kirk. I'm actually trying to work with him in December on some stuff. The reality is, though, it's one of those things where the brother is grieving. And grief shows up differently, man.
And it's ugly.
Like, it's ugly. And it's like, yo, like, we got to pray for him as he's grieving, man. Because one of the things is like when grief show up, it can make you feel like that one thing you just found out is the reason that everything bad happened in your life. That's just a normal response to grief.
Right.
Right. And we allow that to warrant some of our nasty behavior as well.
When it and hopefully, and I really do hope he gets to a place where he can start his healing journey with that, because he's gonna have to deal with himself, his biological father, his mama, his wife. I mean, it's the list goes on. And I say that to say, like, so I was talking to this gentleman many moons ago, and he was talking about his own issues with his dad, and he was like, well, had my dad been around, I would have had manners. And I didn't even let him finish the statement, because I was like, I don't even know your daddy, but I can't let you sit here in my presence and you blame your lack of manners, and you got 4 kids, who 2 of them are grown at the time, and you still had 2 younger ones. So you mean to tell me that no, he started
Come on,
early.
sugar daddy. It's okay.
No, he wasn't my sugar daddy. He just started early because he
I'll
wasn't
be
in my
messing with you, Webby.
I know. Look, I can stay focused. I got you. And you wasn't gonna sit here in my presence and say because your daddy wasn't there, that's why you don't have no manners. Miss me with that. I could tell you, we can have a whole 2-hour segment about anything that I've gone through as a child. But at some point, I have to say, adult Alicia, girl, we're gonna start working through this. And granted, some things aren't as easy. And if you know me, you know, and you know those things, what I'm talking about. Some of those childhood issues aren't so easy to start dealing with. Just being real honest with you. For those.
Sure.
But I think that's the thing though. I think Kirk is working through your mama lied to you. You've been looking for this man. The man he lives like, I think they said he lived right down the street from his studio. Like they live in the same city. I grew up in Fort Worth, so I've been knowing Kirk since he was 16. Like everybody in my family sung with Jewel Kelly, and Kirk can't sing, but he can play the hell out of at a piano. So I've known him and David Mann like before they were who they are now. I'm not name dropping. What I'm saying is, what I'm going back to say is, well, let me take it out, Kirk. I can even use my own father. If I didn't have my grandfather to see another side, I guarantee you I'll be in some of the same mess Kirk was in.
Come on, man. That's some
of the same mess I would have been in. I wouldn't know how to love nobody. I would have been selfish. I would have been self-centered. The person y'all see now, trust me, long time ago, do you know me? When I was sitting at that table broken, after our girl did what she did, and you knew I was like done. I was done. I wasn't going to church at that time. I was mad at God. I wasn't doing anything, period. Doing everything that my cousin would tell me. I lost my cousin for 2 months. Because that's just where I was. But if I didn't not know that, as my grandmother just said, if God brings you to it, he will bring you through it. He brought me through that whole messed up state of mind. I can even go further to say where I was working at making about $65,000, I lost that job. Because when I'm at work, I was there, but I was not focused because I was broke. So yes, it is, and I definitely agree with you. And that fence people like to hang on. Well, I didn't have no daddy. Look, bro, if I could do it, you could do it. My daddy wasn't the best, but that was my daddy. And anybody know we go day for day behind my people. But it was my father wrong in ways, yes, but that was still my father, and he had some good ways. But I thank God that I had a village of men around me, my uncles, people at church. I was always at church. And then I had these tremendous ladies around me who were, I would say Jenny ain't gonna like this, but I call some of them big dudes. They feminine, but they'll slap the hell out of you too. Big dudes. When I tell you that my mother's 4'11", but when I tell you them little fists hurt, my aunt is probably 4 foot, 4'9", 4'10". Them fists hurt. When I tell you they strong women, they feminine, but They didn't play no games, and we didn't play games
No,
with
shut up.
people. But that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I would have felt in that same mess like Kurt. So the fact that even me could see God in the midst of my own turmoil and my own brokenness, it's like to me, that's a big deal. And I guess in my eyes, if and I tell people all the time, if I didn't have what I call my inner circle of friends, if I didn't have my grandfather around, if I didn't have my grandmother around, I tell my kids in school now, man, if you got a grandmother and grandfather, you need to cherish it. Because one day you're not gonna have it. You need to
Yeah.
cherish it. If you got a mama who is really out here trying to get it for you, cherish that, man. Do what you can. She sacrificed a whole lot to get where you at. And I knew and so let me move on because I said I won't keep y'all long. The last question I have, and I want you to think about it personally. And if you, after you watching on the podcast, I want you to think about this. If all you known yourself to be is broken, how do you ever know yourself to be well?
When did you even start to look to heal yourself?
Say that one more time, Jules.
If you always consider yourself broken, like what are you doing to heal yourself?
That's a good question. I mean, look, um,
I'm
when
back.
you
Go ahead.
when some break, when some hit
Nah,
anybody.
no, somebody. I got somebody called me in the middle of the show. Go ahead.
No, no, you good. When some break, right,
Mhm.
and it hit the ground, right, right. There's glass that hit the ground, right. So say you drop a glass in the kitchen. I've been
Yes,
very
sir.
guilty of dropping a glass in the kitchen. I've been whooped as a result of breaking my mama glass or my granny glass. I've experienced a lot of that, but no. So sometimes you can do, to Jules' point, you can be on that healing track and you can sweep up all the glass you see. But then guess what? Sometimes if you didn't clean up everything, there's that piece of glass that you end up stepping on that you didn't even know that you know what I'm saying? That, that takes you back kind of to that broken place because it hurt again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's those little scattered little pieces of glass that you don't see sometimes, or those pieces that you miss after you cleaned
Sure enough.
everything up. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, like, you know, hey, you know, scripturally, therefore, if any man is in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things pass away, but things become new, right? Like sometimes
True.
it's just best. Sometimes it's best to chase that new person. That glass will never be the same no more. You know what I'm saying? And to Webby's point, and I really thought Webby pulled out something real good.
Oh,
Just
oh,
because
good.
one just because one thing failed doesn't mean that everything in your life is failing.
Mm.
Just because you didn't have daddy doesn't mean that you didn't have uncles or guidance and other people. Just because mama didn't teach you or your house didn't teach you manners didn't mean that you didn't go to school and encounter a Webby or somebody at the school that taught you how to have manners, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And the reality is like, or call something out in you that you didn't even know that was in you. I can go and talk about, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail, but there are people that was God set up strategically in my life to call things out in me that I didn't even know that existed. That I'm not quite sure I would be walking in what I'm walking in right now if it had not been for those people in my life. And a lot of those people were not family. So at the end of the day, like, um, you'll never be able to walk in the fullness of who God created you to be, or the unbrokenness until you begin to actually pick up the pieces and move forward. And that might sound a little hard, but it's some truth in that. It's the problem is when you keep the glass on the floor. You know what I'm saying? That's the problem.
Gotta pick it up. Gotta pick up the little bitty pieces. Um, yeah. When I think about that, and with me and Webby say it all the time, healing is a journey that never stops. But somewhere along the way, it had to start. I went through a lot of ups, downs, brokenhearted, failures. And I tend to argue with my aunt about my expectations of being who I am and who I'm associated with. I've always said my family was a brand. Still say that today. But when I say that is that if you knew who my people were, then you understand why I have so much expectation on me, why it is a must that, I have to succeed because there's no room for failure. But I will always reiterate the words that I was always told. No matter how you feel, you got to keep trying. And the day you stop trying, that will be the day that you let the brokenness win and uh, not try to do your part to get well. Hey, did everybody answer that? I know my phone messed up, so I want to make sure everybody said something.
I didn't get to answer.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll be brief. To answer your question is you have to come to a point where you're just tired of being sick and tired. And I know that's some your grandma and them done taught you, but it's definitely the truth. When you get tired of being in that broken place, you will do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Period. Regardless of what that is. But until you get tired of being there, you're gonna stay there.
Definitely good words to end on. Thank you, women. All right, man. You know what it is? The 2-minute drill. I know this ain't been the low. Well, some people say, "Oh, it ain't been the most exciting," but it's thought provoking. And you need to have these in your world. This is therapeutic for me. It's therapeutic. I hope for you, the listening audience. The last comment is in the words of Tasha Cobb Leonard. When I realized I was gracefully broken, I could then see that there was hope for me to begin my journey of healing. So let's do the 2-minute drill. Jules, I'll start with you, ma'am.
Mine's is just gonna be, I'm gonna piggyback off of D and just say, if there's no ownership, there's no growth.
Got it. Thank you, ma'am, as usual. Lil Wedding.
I think I said my 2 minutes, but I'll reiterate. When you get
Hey, she don't play when she got that red lipstick now.
See, I ain't the only one that said something. See,
I'm gonna reserve that comment. So, when you get tired of being sick and tired, you take care of yourself and do what you need to do. If you're tired of being broken, you get tired of being in this place that you don't like, you tired of being a victim, you just tired. You'll get up.
got it. And I go because we always end with D. So I didn't do I say the today's quote for the end of the show. So I'm gonna say that, and you see it cool. What it says is your relationship doesn't need to make sense to anyone except you and your partner. It's a relationship, not a community project. In my 2-minute segment, stop focusing on your way out the door. And when you stop focusing on your way out the door, you start focusing on a solution to get what you need to get together. Whether that's you, whether that's your friendship, whether it's your career, whether your marriage, whether it's your child's relationship, whatever the case may be. Stop looking for the door that's gonna put you outside. When you stop doing that and you really stop doing that, you can really find a solution. D, it's on you. What up, nephew?
Stop hitting me, bro. I would say, what I'm do is turn me up with this ruler. I will say this. Don't be so hard on yourself, man. Like, look, man, you're not gonna be perfect. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a husband, as long as you're taking the steps to grow, like keep growing, like keep evolving, you know. I was so hard on myself as a parent. I've been so hard on myself as a parent. But I think the greatest joy that my kids get every day is the fact that I walk through that door every day. And we can't take that lightly. You know what I'm saying? Same thing for your wife. Like being able to walk through that door, being able to be present, goes a long way. So I would say that, just don't be too hard on yourself. Just keep chasing. Don't lose sight of chasing who God called you to be. Be the best version of who God called you to be. And as the Bible teaches us, take it one day at a time because tomorrow has its own problems. So take it one day at a time. All right. That's all I would say.
All right, bro. It's on you. Go and take us up out of here.
All right, God, we thank you so much for loving us and just allowing us this space. We thank you for keeping us and just allowing us to work through this conversation. This was a heavy conversation, God. So I pray for every heart that may hear this, that may be triggered into a space that is tough, right? God, we ask God, knowing that you are the author and the finisher of our faith, knowing that you're forever present with us, but you're omnipresent, God, that you would go before us, that you would allow peace in those spaces that people have been triggered, that you would continue to remind them of their value, remind us all of our value. And God, to remind us that when you created us, you saw us as good. And that mindset, it never shifted. Like that perspective never shifted. So much so the way you gave the son for us. So, with that being said, let us remember how good we are in your eyes. I pray that each and every one of us can begin to see ourselves in a way that you see us. And maybe that would influence what we classify as horrible, what we consider ourselves to be. God, if you called us to it, you'll get us through it. And we trust you. And I pray this scripture over us that we will taste and see that you are. So it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Once again, man, we appreciate you joining us right here live on the Full 180. We're here every Tuesday, 7:30 to Black Ice BG with G-Ma and a couple other people that was on here. Thank you for joining us, man. Make sure you share it. You got any quotes? Hey, you can always hit us up at the Full 180, the Full 180 Convo at gmail.com. Like I said, we got a new segment called Get Off Your Chest. And we're going to bring back what I call getting on the couch. What this is, and what brief synopsis is, none of us, we will be here, but it will be a real licensed therapist. And either one of us or somebody will actually what we call get on the couch. Get on the couch is where you're just going to be open and transparent. Of course, it would be the same thing if you were going to a therapist, but this will be live. We've done it before. I actually was the first one to get on there when we did it. So I thought it'd be something good, something therapeutic. Now, not that's gonna be a heavy day, but I mean, there may be something that somebody needs at that time, and maybe they may be afraid to go. So that was the main reason why we started it. If we could show you one of us to do it, maybe it would encourage you to actually do the therapy that you need in a serious manner in order to heal. But that is up to your own subjection and projection. So, but we'll let you know when it happens. Other than that, man, you know how I get down. Think big, believe in God, fear and faith cannot dwell in the same place. And before you get to the other side, always remember to love, live, laugh. Thank you for everybody joining. We'll see you on next Tuesday, right here, same time on the Full 180. And of course, it'd be remiss not to take it out with a Kirk song. Have a good night.
Brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you back to life, back to the one that can make your next chapter your best chapter. Hallelujah.
Can it be? You love us, I never told what I live. What you say? Your life was the only gift I left on me. You don't stop I've been searching for my people. Technically, You want the bossy things like you.
You cover me. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
It's amazing how
Your patience with me got well at first.
you don't give up on me.
It's just like you
Like hallelujah. Now, and I promise you, why? Yes. Searched all over. That's right. And the church saying, come on, Jesus loving you. It's time to break it down. Hey, that's why. I really mean it this time. You're the savior.
That's all, folks.